Welcome back. Everybody eat? Oh, I'll take a woo. How about a woo? Thank you. Welcome back. Hope everybody's well fed and ready to now get fed some great knowledge. We're going to be here for the rest of the afternoon, all the way until 5 o'clock. Loads of great sessions, and this is the best way to start it off. I met this young man not too long ago, but it feels like a long time considering how far along they have come. And after this keynote presentation, I'll join him back on stage for a quick Q&A. But right now, please, a big round of applause for the founder and CEO of Verve, Chad Reynolds.
Thank you. You're right there if you need to. You guys hear me okay? Awesome. I wanted to have Pitbull bring me up on stage when we're talking about worlds and Mr. Worldwide. But what I wanted to share today was maybe a different perspective that you might be hearing about AI. And to stop thinking about AI as necessarily a tool that you use, but worlds that you can step into. So over the last 20 years, I've spent my career pretty much behind the scenes. Me and my team were the ones who would do all of the research for Nike, P&G, a bunch of brands that you've heard about. And one of the biggest things as a part of doing that work was trying to represent the consumer in all the big ideas that we were trying to develop. So whether it was building some big creative idea or a new product concept, we would do all this gnarly work behind the scenes and then package it all together and take some of these big ideas into one of these rooms. You may have sat in one of these rooms. But these are where ideas get killed. And so it was up to these 6 to 8 people to say if all the work that we did was worth it. Could we really tap into these insights? And so me being me, I just got extremely frustrated with how this worked. Spending all this time and resources and be left up to these 6 or 8 people in the room. And so this kind of seeded an idea for me of what if you could expand the room and not just talk to 6 people, what if you could talk to 6,000 people? What would actually happen? What would change? What could you actually create? And so that set me on this journey to really examine what does it actually look like to create with the world? Not just in a soundbite, but what does it literally take? And so as we started to build out AI models, this was 8 years ago, we started to look at this idea of what is real. You and I are real. We touch things, we taste things, we have interactions, we both live in the same time horizon, at least I think we do. We started to look at what is real, and then also as AI was starting to advance, it was emerging this other mode of thinking or other mode of way of working called synthetic. So it's kind of the computer is generating insights, generating information. And so when you have real on one side and synthetic and computer generated on the other side, what lives in the middle? And so as we started to look through this, we started to look at this third mode, which starts to reimagine what is real and what is synthetic into this middle state called the surreal. And so as you're looking at AI, again, not as a tool, but as a world where you can step through your ideas, you need to operate in this mode of surreal. Surreal, inspired by surrealism, is just this idea that you can take what is in your head, so these ideas that you try to play out and you want to work through them. How do you get them out? How do you put them in front of other people to get feedback? Slides are linear, our mouth is linear, all these different things are linear, but how do you actually create worlds where people can experience these ideas? So surreal, which again, based off of surrealism, was this concept of taking your dream states and getting it to flow out of you as easy as possible. And if you know surrealism, you probably are familiar with Salvador Dali and the kind of the painting movement, but actually how surrealism got started was actually through writing. Very similar to how AI got started, was through the words. And so it became really important to start to explore this third state, which is where all of the growth actually happens. It's the synthesis of machines and people. And so to operate in Surreal, there need to be different types of AI models. So while the big AI labs, which we've all heard of many times, are raising billions of dollars for language models like GPT and Claude, and also raising billions of dollars for world models, which create 3D worlds, us people, have gotten forgotten. We are in the middle. And so our ambition was to build people models, to really understand not just what people say, but why they say it. And so how we train these models are not just, it's not scraping the internet, it's not taking, all of our writings or all of our imagery and putting it all into the model and calling it a day. We try to interview the world, and we do this through video. So the name Verve came from video survey of a way to interview the world at scale. And so taking all these emotions, the images, the facial expressions we make when we say certain things, by design, those are feeding into a people model that allows you not just to create an agent, you can actually build consumers and entire populations of them. And so as you're creating an agent in these people models, it goes into all the little details of who they are. Not just in their demographics and physical attributes, but also in how they behave. All these individual personality traits, which have become extremely important to understand how to make decisions. And so our ambition, didn't stop there. And that's actually how Danny and I got connected a few years ago when we're not just building an agent, we wanted to build entire populations of agents. And so as you start to work with your consumer persona, which used to live on a slide in PowerPoint, you can now actually use these models to bring your segments to life, not just as an individual, but as entire populations where you can share ideas with them. They can see things. They can react to the ideas that are in your head. And these are becoming a cornerstone to what we see as being the future of AI. One that stops being a tool, but creates worlds that you and I can share ideas with. And so rather than sharing a concept, creative, even a movie trailer with a focus group of people or surveys, you can actually share it with global populations where they can watch things, they can react to things, and you can start to explore audiences that maybe you've never even considered. And so this is what brings us to the most promising opportunity for marketers, is to reimagine just how work gets done. As you're building out your big creative ideas, working with AI populations opens up essentially a sidecar where you can start to collaborate with them from research all the way through concepting, creation, and delivery, and really simulate all of the feedback that you want to hear before you spend $1 in the market. I want to share one quick case just so you can kind of see how this plays out. So this was something we launched called the Neuroverse. It's a neurodivergent population, I think probably the world's first neurodivergent population. Again, was trained on real people, just like you and I, might be autistic, dyslexic, even nonverbal. So using all the data, we were able to build out personas that could watch things, they could react to things. And these aren't caricatures or kind of shallow agents or personas that you might create. They can actually interact with you. I learned my lesson the first time. Is anybody from Budweiser in the room? Just wanted to make sure. So if what was interesting is, like, during the Super Bowl, when you and I were watching Bad Bunny and all these commercials, our personas, our population was watching the Super Bowl ads as well. And so while Budweiser landed #1 on USA Today, the Neuroverse reacted differently. So they were watching the ads as well. And so they had their own scores of how they were viewing things. Again, they have eyes and ears, they can hear things, they can react to things. And they started to give different scores around how they interpreted and how they saw all the information. And this was just eye-opening from just being able to put yourself, not necessarily in their shoes literally, but to see what they see. To have as many voices as possible, restrictive of budgets and time, to just see how people can react and how you can communicate ideas and actually reach more people. So how this shows up in practice, I wanted to do a live demo, but was talked out of it for Wi-Fi issues. But just so you can kind of see how this shapes. Once you're creating these populations, they live in your AI world. And so you can tie them to your demographics and all of your tracking data, transaction data, but you essentially are bringing them to life, and so you can interact with them. Each of them have lived history. They have experiences, and they can create right alongside with you. So you can share ideas with them and also give them some of the tools where they can visualize and create right alongside with you. But it just starts to bring together this idea of, as you're building new concepts, new creative, new strategies, co-creation is no longer like a purely human or human limitation. It gives you the possibility to simulate many different futures all at the same time, creating thousands of different ideas and actually be able to see how they react to the world. And while this might seem like sci-fi, it's definitely not. These models exist today, are in production, and a lot of the consultancies are predicting, this one's from Gartner, about 40% is going to be spent on these types of simulations in the very, very near future. And our belief is to not rely them on language, but to rely them on people, and you and I to be able to speak into models so they can actually understand who we are. Trust is a very, very big component of this, of what goes into these models and what can you actually, what can you believe? How accurate are they to humans? And so our ambition is not to replace humanity, but it's actually to extend what we're capable of. We as humans, we sometimes don't give everybody the full picture. So if you're in interviews or you're talking with someone, we say certain things, but there might be a lot more under the surface. The models help aid us in the discovery of these new human insights. And so as we test them against LLMs and we test them against real people, we're able to discover many more themes and insights than we would normally from having human conversations. We think populations are just a transformative way that you can work and actually democratize access to the consumer across your entire team, your entire company. And that's what we've been working on over the last few years, is building these new kinds of experiences that allow you to create worlds, allow you to create populations that live within them. And as we say, it's like creating a haystack full of all the needles versus looking for a needle in a haystack. This week, we're launching Populations 2. I think, let's see if the trailer works.
What about the pickles?
So Populations 2 builds off Populations 1, which was to build out kind of a general set of millions and millions and millions of consumer personas from all different walks of life. Populations 2 brings in all these really unique characteristics and traits that make us strange, unpredictable, making decisions that one day we like chocolate, the next day we don't, and here's why. It's bringing all this human nuance into populations and how you work with AI in a completely different way. The excitement around what these models can do, and also this kind of emergence of understanding what's real, what's synthetic, and then this surreal mode, is creating lots of different opportunities to build essentially your marketing engine in a completely different way, which is codifying essentially the source code to how you make decisions, but creating a competitive advantage where you can now have populations that you can create ideas with and test thousands and thousands of scenarios before your competition. And we feel like it's going to be the future of how you build marketing. Danny, do you want to come up and open for some questions too? But we're really excited to learn more about the kinds of worlds that you want to build, and also how you can bring your consumer to life in really interesting ways.
One round for Chad.
Thank you, guys.
Have a seat.
Which one do you want to be at?
I'm sure my first question is everybody's first question. What about the pickles? No, not
What
that
about
one. Not that one. So, Chad and I met a little while ago, and this is the story he told me. He said, imagine you're Nike, and you want to launch an athletic shoe for hikers. Well, here's what we do. Instead of you taking 2.5 to 3 years to build focus groups, to test, to learn, and then iterate on cycles of what kind of product and then how you market and support those, we did that in 2 months. And then he sits down and shows me the shoe that was created from actual video surveys, hence the name Verve. And by spending time with real hikers who were really like living and breathing and animating the object that is to come to light, they were able to then generate, this is what it should look like, this is how it should function, this is what you should say about it, and here's a whole line of product. And now that takes how long?
5 minutes.
Frightening. I mean, let's really freak people out. And then you've got this universe that you can play out actual scenarios and try to predict real world outcomes. So what happens when Tim Cook steps down, and what happens to Apple's line? And should I get my Polymarket app out now? You're up.
Yeah, so I mean, creating models that are trying to look at human behavior. I mean, there's so many different possibilities of what this can be. So some of the early use cases are, doing research for hard to reach audiences, or we'll create populations where you could drop, different policies the government, releases, and everybody's kind of scrambling, but we can feed those into the populations and see how they react. We're definitely not trying to predict what will happen from reality, so you can bet on it. But we're not far off. And what it should enable us to do is really to change how we discover. I think that we're so focused on doing research, creating, and then measure, test, through the full loop. A lot of times you test one time at the very end, and it's too late, and you just got to launch, right? So then you're left to kind of reacting if something goes viral or not. But what if you could test 50 times before you even launched?
Before you took a shower.
Yeah. And so what does that enable you to do? And so, while we're focused on, bring this to life within the consumer world, within, retail, within media, within entertainment, we're also doing it within health. So what does it look like when you can build a population of healthcare practitioners and actually collaborate with them? So not just one doctor, it's not like an AI doctor, but you had all these different people who could weigh in on your health. Like, what could that do for you? Because you and I, something might be said, but we hear it differently. And so when you can build AI that isn't singular, it's not telling you you're a genius. It's true. Like, you have these things that are like, this is the greatest idea possible.
My first prompt is, please don't glaze me. Then I ask that, because yes, they do that.
Yeah, and so what we're trying to do is, I'm a designer, so hence all black all the time. But I'm trying to recreate what happened within design school, which is you were given a problem, you created something, and then you rushed to put it up on the wall to have your peers who come from all different worlds to react to it, hear feedback, get critique, take it down, and make it better, put it back up. And so our ambition is, how do I increase the reps you can get so that you are on fire for that idea by the time it's launching, not feeling indecisive.
Well, here's the good news. Pfizer will be here in about an hour, so we can put that to the test. Right now, I'm going to see if anybody has a question and verify we have a roaming mic. If not, you can speak really loud. Just put your hand up. I see one right here. I'll come to you. This when you know you old. I was gonna jump up here. Now it's
help
like
you down?
step, pause, put the other
Make
foot
sure I'm
down.
okay?
Okay, here we are. No, I'm not.
Thank you. I think it's really cool that you're looking at real people. My question is, where are you sourcing these actual real people?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we started through social media, so signing up individuals who wanted to share their thoughts, ideas, and opinion for brands. So they consent and they're compensated for that. And so we didn't know it at the time, but we created essentially an AI training pipeline where it's compensating people all the way through the whole stack, versus all of our data in here taken unbeknownst to us and put into somebody else's model that they can monetize. So we've designed a system that you can sign up for, things you're passionate about, different areas you're interested in, and then we launch these video questions to your phone to help share a different part, of your life and how you experience things. And so what we're doing is less about necessarily what you're saying, but how it's informing different facets of who you are. And so rather than going to a drop-down menu that has, there are 5 hair types that exist in the world. We know that that's not true. How do we collect the 5 million ways that people describe things in their words and the way that they say things? And so we're building models that are all focused on amplifying humanity, all the things we say and see and hear and who we are as people, and build those into the model by design. And it might be a contrarian perspective of how to build AI, but we think it's necessary and meaningful, especially right now. And we had this ambition of how do you build AI powered by people? It's not just taking my writing, because how I write is very different than who I am, but taking all this emotion from you and I and trying to build these into little kind of moments in your life where you can share in the model and actually get rewarded for it.
We have time for one more. We have one more brave soul. Ad Square in the building.
Great hype man, Danny, thank you. So at Square, we have audience segments that we build based off real world data. Do you work with data partners or other programmatic partners who have got segments in their platforms to then enable people to test on those?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can use all of your all of the data to essentially create kind of think of them as you're embodying the data. So going from spreadsheets and data points into creating AI populations. So we can transform your data to build a custom population just for you. So as we're working with different brands, we'll have a Adidas population, Nike population. Those two never meet.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I get to do that.
He the boss.
So it's me. I did raise my hand. I work at Budweiser.
Yep.
So it's brand worlds, are their next marketing frontier. But it's interesting. I was at this creative show, and I was a judge, and there was a thing that was submitted, and it was in the innovation category. And basically, what they're doing is they're using AI models to craft new food out of healthy ingredients that match taste. So my point was really okay, this is the future. I come from the food world, so I'm a little jaded. But why is it just marketing? I feel like the worlds that you're putting together benefit healthcare, yada yada, on a whole different level of
Absolutely.
Scientific data and that kind of stuff. And so I just want you to talk a little bit of that. I love marketing. Don't get me wrong. That's what we get paid for, but it doesn't really change the world, or it does in different ways.
Yeah. So we didn't start in market. That's a great point. We started really in human research, and so our ambition, you can create anything. So some of the early use cases were, just kind of reinventing how research is done. What is an insight? And trying to reimagine how teams were working, because I was just frustrated that essentially insights would go into PowerPoint to die. How do we reinvent the format of human insights? And if successful, this can reinvent many different functions, many different categories, and really just empower individuals who want to think differently about the systems that they can create and what's possible. Designing shoes is cool and all, but designing a completely different healthcare experience is much more meaningful. We want to do all of it. And the only way that we can get there is to embrace people models as a way to take what's inside of each one of us and put it into an experience where we can start to see the world through all of these different lenses. And so now you can collaborate not just with who's in front of you, but you can create populations that can give you many different ways to look at how you solve a problem. Marketing is super important because it can unlock, I think, just like brands' ambitions to want to change people's lives. I think this can actually be the way that they do it.
How about one more round of applause for the founder of Hervé?
Thank you all.